An amazing mixtape just dropped from one of my favorite up-and-comers, so let's talk about it. "19-year-old LA rapper Lucy Bedroque, formerly known as Lost Rushi, has dropped their highly anticipated mixtape Unmusique. First announced in December, and after a series of delays, it's finally here. It comes after a series of smaller EPs, singles, and scattered Lucy's dropped across various streaming platforms. It's his biggest project since the Sisterhood album from 2023, having been a concept album exploring the different sides of the self through both struggle and triumph. Bedroque's sound originally took shape drawing from and emulating the compressed, sample-based audio of early Nintendo handhelds, a sound born out of hardware limitations that saw its last iteration through the Nintendo DS. His early work was very much in line with what we consider the glitchy digicore scene of the time. But going into Sisterhood, the songs became fuller, more structured, and tagged on a proper storyline to the project as a whole. Throughout 2024, Bedroque moved on from bit-crushed vocals and started locking in on sung and rapped verses, and diversifying his arsenal with projects like Tether, with a sound that's distinct from the dreamy sounds of previous works. So that brings us into Unmusique today. But before we can get into the songs, we need to talk about that title and how this project as a whole has been presented. Bedroque has positioned this project, at least to some degree, as a play on Playboi Carti's music, altered through the French translation and the insertion of the prefix un. In addition, we got this Glut Mother graphic, which also clearly plays on the Iammusic design that was used for Carti's album and the promotion for it. So yeah, there's been a lot of talk about how artists choose to reference others in their work. There's been the Osama-san cover arts, for instance, or people referencing certain eras of style, of like 2000s era swag style and such. And some call it nostalgia bait, stealing, just pure nonsense. And sometimes that's true, but in this case, it's clearly more than meets the eye. So let me explain. Bedroque's visual style around Sisterhood was directly referential to Neon Genesis Evangelion, a typography that's been quite impactful in the world of graphic design as a whole. And so then, towards the end of 2023, we get Carti's style curator, Sex is Death, referring to those same aesthetics, eventually with the debut of the Iammusic cover, which pulls from 2010's Lil Wayne and reinterprets it to express Carti's duality. But that's for the Carti video and not this one, right? But the way I see it is that Unmusique mirrors Carti's album in quite literal ways. Firstly, you've got an underground up-and-comer versus a mainstream rock star, a mixtape versus a long-awaited album, and you get a wide variety of sound versus a project that's tightly curated on trap music only. It even mirrors in terms of their place, because Playboi Carti is the music versus the music is Lucy Bedroque. I actually asked in the Discord server about the title, and Bedroque replied saying that it reflects how the tape contrasts his previous work, and it ends up being something that's contentious for fans. But then in that case, if understanding the music means to understand Bedroque, you run into some trouble with that, at least to some degree. It's the fact that his presence online has been somewhat opaque and esoteric. Not 100%, not always, but you know, there's no day in the life vlog, and there's no like, it's not that influencer type deal where you get to appear into everything in the person's life. Like, if we get something, it's going to be a cryptic one-off. But what we do know is the scope of some of his influences: Visual K, hip-hop, metal, video games, anime, and connections to online culture as a whole, reflected through sampled choices, vocals, as well as fashion and aesthetics overall. We do have a sense for that. And that is quite a wide range. Just off rip, that already is a lot of stuff. There's already a lot of depth to all that stuff. So how does that translate into a project? How do you, as a complex, multifaceted individual, not only juggle your interests, but also channel them into one outlet, in this case being this mixtape, music? There's been a few videos online on like how to manage interests. Those went popular for a little bit, you know, how to make time for them and the such. But what I found more interesting, especially in terms of like creative works, is how do you choose to express those interests? How are they reflected in your creative work? And, you know, also your day-to-day life. I mean, socially, we do it through the way we dress, we talk, how we carry ourselves, in that there is curation, but a lot of it is natural and just sort of is the case. But creatively, it's a different inverted situation where the aspect of what we choose to show is far outclassed by how we choose to do it. Because in the age of an algorithmic internet, we don't need to worry about holding back our out-of-the-box interest for fear of getting ridiculed, as one of the few good consequences of this keep people on our site and satisfied system is that we can immediately connect with people just like us and don't need to worry about making subtle gestures and waving flags to find our people. Often the computers and the systems do it for us. Obviously there's a con there, but that's the element that's at play. If you're an overseas English teacher and you've got a peanut allergy and you love rock and roll, there's a Facebook group just for that. You just gotta go find it. So for artists, if you're working on something that has to be a reflection of yourself and you're not so much limited about what you can share, how you do it is the most important part. How do you make it truthful and engaging? Really harnessing your interests with the end goal being a coherent creation. Let's start somewhere where the reception was poor. Lil Uzi Vert's Pink Tape. Uzi has always professed a love for a multitude of genres of music and media, from emo, anime, J-pop, K-pop, all of that sort of stuff. Uzi has that same sort of visible depth, but how do we portray that in an album? We slap on a cover of Chop Suey, maybe get some metal songs with Uzi features, no context in the middle of the track list, and just hope that people understand it and it's received well. I can understand how Uzi respects these bands and would like to pay tribute. That's the what of it. But the how left a lot to be desired. We don't get a sense of how this stuff is uniquely influential to Uzi, and it doesn't really feel like we have the world of Uzi Vert and all of the other stuff meshing together. It seems that they're still separate, oil and water, with no binding agent. We have a regular Uzi album with some other jazz floating around. There are other cases of this, the Lil Wayne rock album, Instagram fashion brands, and I've sort of noticed there's a way that these problems tend to arise. There's two main issues that we get. It's either not having a deep enough understanding of the topic that you're adopting and misrepresenting it, which ends up coming off as inauthentic, or being in so deep that you sort of lose track of where you are in your own perspective and you forget how all of this stuff connects back to you. These are these sort of opposite situations that lead to the same consequences. For instance, let's say I like Rick Owens, or pick whatever fashion brand you like. Cool brand, seen some pics, gnarly. Okay, cool, so let's make something based off that. But if your understanding is too surface level, your interpretation is blatant imitation, and your creation won't be substantive and will lack originality. But now let's say I'm the biggest super fan in the world, I know everything, every collection, the archive, all the detail, all the interviews, all the philosophy, and I apply all of that to myself, whether it really fits me or not, whether it's actually suitable for me, whether physically or metaphysically. Then you end up in the same situation where it's no longer really filtered through you, it's just another expression of the same thing. A very good and well understood one maybe, but it's certainly not yours. You're lost in the sauce.
So if you don't got no sauce, then you're lost. But you can also get lost in the sauce.
We cannot dip our brush into the ink once and expect to have enough to fill the canvas, yet we mustn't slather it blindly without consideration or understanding. Type, you know? What do you mean? What do you know about that? So how does the album avoid this problem? Well, let's go through track by track and see if we can figure it out. First song, Speakers Never Learn. Kick things off with loud, blown out sound, something reminiscent of the track Infinitude Ouroboros from Sisterhood, right? So that gives us the direction we're going. Lots of distortion, vocal manipulation, and it ends with a little 2000s Euro dance instrumental break. Great intro, serves well as an intro, and it sets the expectation for the rest of the tape. We continue into G6 Anthem, where we get more of Bedroque's distinctive production style, and it's something where the descriptors are more than genre-based, they're rather cultural. Granted, generally you can find the bridge between the two. It's very electronic, sort of maybe a warehouse pop sound, if you will. It has a sense of drama that occasionally is subverted by more lighthearted topics like the fishing bowl meme, jumping out the fishing bowl. For the next 8 songs, no more Lucy Bedroque production. It's all a variety of different producers, starting with Ego Break and 9 Lives, close collaborators of Bedroque for the song Ultraviolet featuring Pretty Fun. It's a glittered hyper trap sound, good thumping bass with vocal chops that immediately reminds you of like Jersey Club style. The raps are also off to a good start too. Pretty sure Bedroque writes his raps. Finally, people are actually like doing that again. No shame in that, you know? And Pretty Fun's follow-up verse is also just as good. I first heard Pretty Fun on either the Tether project or the song 9. I'm not too sure which one was first. Ever since then, the trajectory has been up for Pretty Fun, and like the sound is super great. Awesome voice too. 2010 JB. Immediate Osama-san vibes, beat-wise. Definitely from the Draco FM school of production, which has been my favorite because they're always so interesting and puzzling. Like, how do you even go and approach a beat like this? But Lucy handles it with finesse. It is so satisfying. Something quite not unexpected, because for one, I had never thought of it. But in retrospect, you think, well, he's already covered Ken Carson beats for 4, so it's not at all out of the question. And it's a really well done performance. Next track, Smackdown. We've got a spacey beat with a lovely bounce to it. And it's honestly something that I would have liked for Yeet to have. It's a very Yeet beat, something Afterlife era type of Yeet. It's very chill and laid back. And while Bedroque's approach is interesting to it, I think that consistently employing the laid back approach is what the beat needed, and sometimes it veers off that a bit. So I wouldn't go as far as to call it a miss, not at all. But there's definitely an ideal vision and version that of this I had in mind. Like at times it's very in line, as I said. And I do like the guitar riffs and the little metal vocal bit in the middle of the song for a little auditorial heterogeneity.
Heterogeneity.
It's something I like a lot more on some days than others, so it kind of depends. Don't sweat it though, because the next track, Fenty Face, is absolutely cohesive. Sky delivers an incredible industrial beat. You might have heard Sky productions on Ken Carson, Osama-san, 1AM. This is the best Sky beat I've heard so far. It's so good, and Lucy gets in all the right flows, all the right pockets. It's honestly something that I've been missing out a lot from some of these rappers, because a flow with momentum where all the syllables just falls right is easily the best thing you can have. It's like a Call of Duty edit, where the velocity points that you put in the Sony Vegas are all laid out right, and they all got the right bands on them, and it's just perfect. For me, it was Phantom Forces, but what would you know about that? It's the meme about older generations of rappers trying to approach Ken Carson beats. That's the sort of vibe I get from all these sorts of productions. But Lucy does it great. And if you want to hear weird raps on weird beats from a time before, then I suggest Fantastic Damage, because LP pioneered a synthesized industrial hip-hop sound that also features weird beats that are impossible to rap on. So if you like that, you'll probably like the other two. Track 7 is made in Italy, a fun little song about stunting and designer, yet we continue with the boosted up trap sound that consists of big vocals, but also with an itchy, erratic trap sound underneath with the drum pattern. And it's quite unique, I must say, and it's something that you can clearly count on Bedroque for making and performing well on. Even if the beat is different, it's still that same sort of vibe from Bedroque. It's adapting the trap to the Bedroque universe in a sense. On the track Tout Naturel, we keep the same energy going, but instead of the snares or something being the spotlight, I'm more focused on the expressive bass line in the song. Some well-paced verses and a killer ending chorus that fades out in a real satisfying way. Bien joué. So then we get international with the song Finish Him with Jack Zebra, a Chinese underground rapper. I listened to the translated verse and I can sort of follow Jack's flow, maybe, I think. And honestly, it's pretty cool. Like, I haven't been familiar with Jack until now, but I know that hip hop is generally popular in China to at least some extent. And, you know, it gets a lot of love over there, so crossover is pretty cool. Though aside from that, I don't really have anything notable to say about this song. It's alright. It's alright. So then Sky brings out another crazy beat on the track Ouija. If you've got a friend, if you know somebody who likes Cardi, Osama-san, Ken Carson, you gotta show him this song. Bedroque brings the aggression all the way for perfect synchronization. It's up there with songs like Pop Out, Just Score It, Lose It, exact same lane. And the verse is really well done. The chorus is nice. You even got the panning, chia, ad-libs, side to side, left, right. And I'm always looking forward to that KO ad-lib as well in the chorus too. Just another example of a perfect performance from Bedroque. So after that, you get smacked over the head with I Am Impossible. Just in case you thought the other track was a fluke, we run it back again. Structurally similar to Ouija as well, but it's probably the most conceptual sort of track out of all of them, utilizing a verse built on anaphora with the repetition of I can make X turn not X, utilized for lighthearted inversions such as making a trapper build a spaceship, making a fat dude hate food, and making Isaiah Teachy love his fans. You know, just messing around, really doing it for fun. These little impossible situations and antithetical scenarios that place himself, Bedroque, as the person who can get those things done, hence the title. Clever, short, and standout. We return to something closer to the traditional Bedroque sound with the ending songs here, but with a subtle inversion, as always, considering the global nature of Bedroque's discography. It's densely packed and all over the place versus something like Fête de la Vanille, where it's all gentle, pink, and anime. Here we're very much intense, black, and like hip-hop over on this side. Karamia? What is a Karamia? Karamia is bass heavy with sharp drums and yet brings a bright melody in with it and has this panning inverse warble throughout the whole song. I like stereo audio as much as everybody else does, but for some reason panning makes me want to move my eyes and follow the sound, and it makes me kind of sick. Slim's Return by Madlib is a song that also has like a super strong panning towards the end of the song, and it makes me dizzy. I can't do it, but maybe I'm just sensitive to that sort of stuff. I don't know. The track Ignorant is maybe the least intense song on the album, which really allows the listener to focus a bit more on the vocals, which is great because the rhythm's fire and we both get the breathy delivery as well as of a more regular voice. It's a song you can hit that little Kodak Black dance to, you know, it's something chill. It's like a very chill song. But when it comes to the songs One of Us is Lying and Unmusique, we delve into electronic dance. One of Us bringing out the trap sequences for the verses and then switching it out for a rave break throughout the song. This sort of trap EDM fusion, trap being the hip hop genre and not the electronic genre of the same name. It's commonly referred to as digicore. That title is sort of contentious. It's a sort of recategorization from when we first started calling everything hyperpop, even if it was more hip hop than pop, determining that hyperpop is more PC music, Charlie XCX, and that sort, while digicore is a catch-all term for the rest of it. It could be pitched up vocals from the likes of Sebi, Baby Goyard, 454. It could be a high BPM trap beat with glitchy production, or it could just be any variety of electronic dance inspired rap songs. So the categorization is a bit much and a bit all encompassing. And while you could say Bedroque's early work followed tropes within digicore, you can see now that it's matured into having its own identifiable flair, while still keeping its roots, of course. You really get a sense that this is all filtered through him and his perception, and how he adopts and adapts these sounds and bridges them seamlessly. For example, the title track gives me a Tu Hollis impression, which I think is intentional, but again, it's tailored to the project and Bedroque's style. The name of the song, also fitting considering it's the whole project's name, because it diverges so much from what you consider a traditional Lucy Bedroque sound, closing out with a crushed up, hard trance with his voice peeking through sparsely. Then we ebb into the last two tracks. Cat's Eye, a hypnotic, deep sleep feel with the Nine Lives production. It's like a wind that excites chimes while you lay on a bed, just a giant pulsating speaker bed, and Lucy's vocals just ranging from feathering alongside your ear, from being overhead and omnipresent. I kind of wish like the little bit with the snares came back around at the end though, because that part is my favorite and I think it really should have closed out with that. Then we finally, closing out, we have Yes You May. It's a sort of bonus track considering that it had released back in January, but the interesting aspect of this is that this is produced by Katio Bell, I think that's how you say it, and Bell is someone who's been pretty significant in being a source of inspiration for Lucy Bedroque early on, from the beginning. So in a sense, it is a full circle moment to close out the project that has diverted the most from your traditional sound with something that is quite literally the source of it. So I looked into Bell's beats as well, and yeah, you can see how sort of the Bit Crush productions, the Dreamer productions, how Lucy iterated from those. And I also scrolled down all the way to the bottom of Bell's SoundCloud page and found that the early beats were very much like cloud rap, sort of DJ Screw slowed down style. Something that like reminds me of Oliver Francis, sort of in that same lane. And that's it. That's all the songs. 40-minute runtime. So what do we take away from this? Well, we've identified a multitude of styles and approaches to music, different sectors of EDM, pop, rap subgenres, a little bit of rock in there too. The fusion, understood, fitting, and not out of place. For this, we have to thank the talents of the producers who have experience making hip-hop and electronic dance. And of course, Lucy for taking the care and consideration, easing the listener into the new sound with a sort of gradient transition. That being said, you know, there's a little secret to this. Hip-hop and EDM are basically sister genres, cousins at the most distant. So this project is really a continuation in a practice between these two genres, crossing them over all the time, which has been the case since the inception of the two. That's all you get because that video is coming another day. The issue you can run into is when you try to jump into other genres or bring them together, is that you can end up regressing yourself back to what the music sounded back then, or just like pull yourself over into something you don't quite don't quite master, falling back into retro just for the sake of it. You're nostalgia baiting, or you're just adopting something without tailoring it to yourself first. Very few time-traveling musicians can give us an older style of music as is in the modern day and have it be enjoyable beyond triggering like fond memories of a better time. What's much more effective is to take a sound that you like, take aspects from it, a sound or an era, transform it into what is suitable for today, suitable for you, through yourself. Because if you don't, you have to live up to the best of that realm you're adopting from, and it's very hard to achieve that. To instead create based off of your own experience, iterating upon yourself, what you know, feeding off of it. You know, you can rebirth something from what already was. A cycle. I wonder what that could be. I wonder what he's been using to represent that the whole time. I don't know. Beats me. At least that's how I see it. You might have a different perspective. I don't know. Great project. Awesome. Looking forward to hearing more. I know this is supposed to be part of a double mixtape, so we'll just have to see what's next for the other side, on side B. Thanks for watching, I guess. Yeah. Oh, it's like if Playboi Carti did Revenge Seekers.